following is a special multimedia presentation from NorthJerseySports.com, sponsored by The Anvil. Let us introduce you.
Hi, welcome to The Anvil.
Let's get started on the tour, shall we?
This is our designated area for warm-ups, calisthenics, abs, and stretching. Dan, maybe jeans aren't the best idea.
If I can't get ripped, at least my jeans will. We have 60 by 100 feet of turf area for you to practice with your team or play with your friends. We have parties and field rentals. We can do basketball, baseball, softball, hockey, lacrosse, or the age-old gym favorite, dodgeball.
Here at The Anvil, we like to cater to all of our clients, even those who are not currently working out, especially the moms. Enjoy.
Thank you. Here at The Anvil, we have the sleds to help you shred. Isn't that right, Tyler? Here at The Anvil, we make dreams come true.
Original multimedia series talking all things football across North Jersey. And yes, you heard that right. It is mid-January, and we are still talking high school football in North Jersey. I am Corey Doviak, being joined by my illustrious panel, which is just one member tonight, the venerable one, James Avatable. Jimmy, what are we doing here?
That's a good question. I mean, some big news this week coming out of Southern Bergen County, which is exciting for, small school football. So that's why we're here.
Yes, and to not belabor any points, we are going to jump right in and tell you what we're doing here tonight with our guest this evening. He is the mayor of the quaint hamlet of Woodridge. He is a New Jersey State Senator. He is on the executive committee of the NJSIAA. And he joins us on the Anvil Performance Hotline. He is Mr. Paul Sarlo. Coach, thanks for slumming with us here a little bit tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be with you guys.
Yeah, so big announcement at Woodridge High School on Friday. I was invited. I was unable to make it. I wanted to make it. But why don't you tell us, at least, I have the press release and I can read it word for word, but you're the guy who broke the news, so why don't you tell us what's going on?
So the Woodridge High School football team will be opening next season, the 2020 season, against the Beckton Regional High School football team on September 4th, Friday, September 4th, in Canton, Ohio. Although 1.7 miles apart, both schools will be opening up about 7 hours out Route 80 from here. So let's put that into context. A few years back, or actually 2 years ago, Northern Highlands in Clifton made the trip out to Canton, Ohio, and had a very, very successful experience, student-athlete experience, not just about playing the game out there in a competitive game, but for their programs, for their student-athletes. So we had heard through the Northern Highlands Athletic Director, Bobby Williams, and Tom Mulhey from the Clifton Athletic Director, that Canton was looking for North Jersey schools to come out and do it again. And perhaps they would be interested in hosting some small public schools to showcase some of the smaller public schools and promote high school football, which in New Jersey is some of the best in the country. So when I was approached about this about 18 months ago, we thought about it, we kicked it around a little bit, and Woodridge decided to take the lead, and we wrote a bunch of letters and made a bunch of phone calls, and here we are. 18 months later, Woodridge was accepted to come out and play a game out there, and we decided to go along with Beckton, who are our neighbors to the south. Beckton, for those who don't know, is Carlstadt and East Rutherford. It's a regional high school, 2 towns. One of a larger Group 1 school. We're on the smaller side of Group 1, Woodridge, but a lot of crossover. The high school football coach from Beckton played football in his high school years at Woodridge. He actually lives in Woodridge. Jackie Marr lives in Woodridge. His brother is, he's a Woodridge kid. He lives in Woodridge, and his brother is our high school basketball coach. So it was a perfect fit for us to work with Beckton. So we make sure we get all the necessary approvals from both boards of education, from our conference, from the NJIC conference, and we got all that in place. And both boards of education made it clear that this will no public dollars would be expended, and I support that. And a little sweat equity here for the kids and the parents. Do it the old-fashioned way: pasta dinners, beefsteaks, Super Bowl pools, you name it. Raise the money necessary to do this. So, listen, I believe there's 2 goals here. Number one is to promote public school, high school football. You know, our large parochials do it all the time. They travel. God bless them. They do an amazing job. They play some of the best across the country. And my hat's off to the big 4 out there that do that. You're seeing more and more of the public schools starting to travel out, but we have some amazing athletes in the smaller schools who play multiple sports. These are kids who play multiple, and here's an opportunity for them to play on a big stage. And so this is not just about Woodridge or Beckton. I think this is about representing all the smaller Group 1, Group 2 schools, maybe even some small Group 3s out there on a bigger stage. That's number one. And then number 2, for each respective schools, just promoting the student athlete experience. You just don't have to be a football player, whether you're a basketball player, a baseball player, a track player. Coming to these schools, we're the parents, the alumni. We're trying to do the right thing here and keep kids in our school district and promote them. So it's sort of I look at it as a 2-pronged approach here on why this is a huge success and a huge win for everyone.
Are you going to busing together, separate buses? I mean, if it's separate buses, you might be shooting spitballs at each other down Route 80.
So we got here's the approach. Is where it's a lot to do in a short period. You got to remember, this is week 1, so this is not week 0. This will be actually week 1. Labor Day's late this year, and the kids do not go back to school until the Tuesday after Labor Day. So we're going to get on the road. The both school districts will be both teams, I should say, will be on the road on Thursday morning, crack of dawn, separately, leaving from their respective locker rooms, and they'll travel separately out to Ohio, straight out Route 80. Straight out Route 80. It's a good 6-7 hour, potentially on the high end of 7 hours with traffic. But once they get there, one team will go right to Tom Benson Stadium, do a pregame walkthrough. Normally, a pregame what they would normally do on a Thursday back home, and the other school would go to their respective hotel. The teams will be in separate hotels. And then they'll switch. But that night, the 2 teams are going to get together and a joint team dinner, and there will be a motivational speaker, a speech by, we're hoping, a NFL Hall of Famer who will address the kids, and it'll be a joint team dinner to create that, to get it on. We want a lot of hitting. We want it to be competitive. But at the end of the day, they're neighbors, they're competitors, but they still can enjoy a pasta meal, pregame pasta meal. Next morning will be on Friday the 4th, up early. Breakfast normal, no different than they would do back home here in Woodridge or Beckton, but they would for a Saturday game or a day game, I should say. They'll travel independently to the stadium. 11:30 is kickoff. Post game, they'll have full access to the locker rooms and training rooms and get themselves healed up and cleaned up, and then later that afternoon they will travel to the museum to take in the Hall of Fame Museum and all the historic pieces of art that are out there in Canton. And then that evening there'll be a little downtime. It's up to the coaches what they decide to do with their teams. Have a little downtime, and then Saturday morning up early, back here late Saturday. They get ready for school and get ready for week 2. They get ready. It'll be Labor Day weekend. Have a little downtime and get ready for week 2.
That sounds like a dream for a high school athlete. Yeah, I mean that's going to be real.
It's almost like a little college. It's almost like if you were playing for a small college. I mean, that's Jack Marr from Beckton. When he said that, he turned to his kids from Beckton. He said, "Guys, this is what you would experience if you were playing for a small college that did not fly someplace. This is what you would experience."
Yeah, that's awesome. And on the trip, you will drive out Route 80 right past America's greatest university in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, home of the Fighting Warriors. Anyway, Jimmy,
Hey.
do you have a comment on that, a question on some, or do you want to lead us down a different trail? The floor is yours, my friend.
No, just wanted interested to see why you decided it was going to be Beckton. Was it just the location? Obviously, you guys play Wallington this year, who's another rivalry of yours, type rivalry. Why was it Beckton? And who is giving up the home game this year? Is it Woodridge or Beckton?
That's a good question. I believe Woodridge will be giving up the home game. So it's an independent game. It's an NJIC crossover.
Right.
We're both NJIC teams, so it's a crossover game for us. So by doing this, we're giving up our bye week. I know we're probably going to talk about the amount of football games in the season later on, but this will require us to do 9 games this year because they're going to have to give up our bye week by doing this. So that's the first point. We did consider other schools. There was other opportunities we did consider. I know Mark Sinclair, our athletic director, had reached out to potentially Park Ridge, who we have great relationships and good working relationships, and I have great respect for the Park Ridge football coach and their athletic director and all they do up there. Just from an infrastructure standpoint, from sort of the folks, we know each other, we compete against each other. Many of these kids have grown up playing Little League baseball against each other and rec basketball against each other. The local officials on the ground in Carlton, East Rutherford have relationships with Woodridge. The head football coach from Beckton living in Woodridge helps, his brother being a basketball coach. So there was just a lot of connectivity. It really makes it easier on Woodridge, who's the host. So we're just a few minutes away. If we need to grab a quick meeting one night over a cup of coffee, we could do it, and it's not a lot of formalities.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's going to be great. These kids are going to remember it for the rest of their lives, and that's what high school sports are all about. I mean, for sure.
And you know what? We're sending there's a little message being sent here that, football's alive and well here in where we play in the Middle End Football League. Numbers are way down at the junior football levels. We're hoping this will hopefully promote kids to stay and play football. We're fortunate to have the Don Boscos and the St. Joe's and the Bergen Catholics and the Paramus Catholics and others here in Bergen, in the Bergen County area. But we also have some great public football programs, whether it's the Ramapos or the Riverdales of the world or Ridgewood or Paramus. So this is a way to highlight that not only do we have some really good Group 3 and Group 4 schools, but we have some really, really Group 1, Group 2 football schools, Group 1 and Group 2 programs that have long-standing traditions. Of course, every year is depending on the group of athletes that are coming through, so we understand that. But this is more than just, we want to be able to, hopefully a couple of years down the road, if 2 other programs, Park Ridge, Emerson, decide to do this, we could turn over a blueprint to them and say, this is what we did, you guys do it. So I'm hoping more and more public schools will do this.
Yeah. To the average person, they'll just figure that, you both get on buses and you go there and you play the game. Obviously, we know there's much more to that. If you can, walk us through the process of setting up the game as far as contacting Canton Hall of Fame and logistically all the steps.
So like I had said earlier, the original connection was made by the Northern Highlands and Clifton ADs, but there was a series of letters that we had to write. We had to get letters from both superintendents and both athletic directors talking about the commitment, and we had to get really buy-in from Woodridge's high school touchdown club and Beckton Regional's sideline club. That's the sort of the not-for-profit association that does the fundraising for the kids, and there's there are sweatshirts and warm-up stuff and stuff that is outside the typical school budget, because the pressure is really going to be on them to raise the money to do that. We're very fortunate in Woodridge. We have a great athletic director who stepped up. Our high school football coach, Charlie Trentakovsky, is very community oriented. He has a great relationship with everybody in the community. So the initial, it was a wait and see. We made the request, and then it was sort of a wait and see. The hard part was once they said, yes, we'd love for you guys to come, here's a contract, to make sure we could fulfill the obligation. So, listen, I've been honored to be able to sort of shepherd some of this stuff through, kind of bring the people together. But this is a team effort, both the school boards, the local officials, the parents, the kids. It's a lot of legwork, but we learned a little bit from what Northern Highlands and Clifton did, and I think we're going to even improve upon that more.
And this commitment to small school athletics, and there's no two bigger proponents of small school athletics than Jimmy and myself. I mean, Jimmy, obviously volunteers with the Woodridge baseball program. Is when we do our football show is at Hasbrook Heights all the time. He goes to Group 1 football games just because that's what he likes to see. Me, I am a Palisades Park high school kid. I know small school athletics. So, and I remember growing up in Pal Park. I mean, people, would look at it now and say, with the state of the athletic programs there, participation being way down and everything. Like, we used to spend our entire summers, everything else, at the Little League field in Palisades Park, which is no longer there. It's been, paved over, and it's now a development, and they moved it to an out-of-the-way place down at the county field, which does not foster community involvement. You don't want to go there other than to just play games and stuff. You seem to, and by you, I mean you personally and you as a collective, meaning the town of Woodridge, has seemed to have doubled down on really fostering the community spirit of not only high school athletics, but community athletics. Redoing the field, the turf, one of the first to put turf into down there, to make the field more usable for more people at more times, and then adding the softball field. And now I understand there's another project going on. So, give us the update on that project, and also, it's small town America. It, is exemplified nowhere better than in Bergen County, New Jersey. I mean, we have the malls of Paramus, but we also have the streets of Woodridge, the streets of North Arlington, or wherever. So, it does matter to me, and it obviously matters to you. So why don't you give us an update on what else is going
on? Great question, and I appreciate the question. So I was born and raised in Woodridge, played 3 sports here, had the opportunity to play a little college baseball over at the Jersey Institute of Technology, and never left Woodridge. Stayed here. Never thought I'd end up in politics. Never thought I'd end up being a mayor or a state senator. I'm an engineer by trade. I run a large company, but youth sports, high school sports, is a passion of mine. It's always been a passion of mine. I believe you don't have to be the best athlete in the field, but it helps these young students, young boys and girls, to become better balanced in their life. So I have an opportunity, because I've been blessed to be elected to office, and have an opportunity to use that as a little bit of a platform to promote high school sports and student athletes. I'm going to continue to do that as long as I can. But Woodridge is we got a lot of buy-in from our young folks. Like, hey, we could do this. We understand it's an investment in our community. Yes, our property taxes are paying for some of these investments in our athletic complexes, but at the end of the day, it's an investment in the community. It's an investment in the value of our homes. So the Woodridge High School, I cannot believe it, but it's 10 years already. Our high school turf field was used nonstop. I mean, I think every soccer, basketball, football. I mean, not basketball, soccer. You don't have to take that out either. You could leave it in. Soccer, football, baseball. I mean, it's nonstop, and the field got tired and got worn out, and it was one of the original turf fields down in South Bergen. So we're redoing that field. That field will be a new state-of-the-art turf field this spring. It'll be ready March 1st for the first day of softball and baseball. But what most people don't know about Woodridge is a 1 square mile residential community, except that we have a 50-acre sort of peninsula which kind of jets out in towards Lodi, which is the old Curtiss-Wright Corporation. That facility was built by the Department of Defense, by the federal government back at the kickoff of World War II. That's where Rosie the Riveter worked, and it was a huge factory and was a huge economic engine right through the early, right up to the Korean War. And then when they went out of business, that place just became an economic drain for the town of Woodridge, literally an economic drain. And subject to lawsuits and tax appeals and environmental cleanups. When I became mayor in 1999, elected in 1999 as mayor, I remember that place as a kid, kind of my parents would say, do not walk through there. Do never go through there. And I made a commitment to everybody that land, that 50 acres, was much better suited by redeveloping it and doing something. So after major discussions and community involvement, we embarked on a sort of a little bit of a risky, but at the time an expansive redevelopment plan. Today, as we sit here, we have a new train station down there. So we have 2 train stations in Woodridge, one on the east side, one on the west side. So we have a train station down there with direct access to Manhattan. We have 900 new units, townhomes type condos. And the final phase is going to be a 10 to 12 acre athletic complex. It will have a true baseball stadium. That will be a turf stadium with lights, dugouts, cages. It will be literally will rival any small college program's baseball stadium. There will be a true girls softball there, 50 and 50-70 diamond. And we're going to have a state-of-the-art soccer field and complex that will allow our soccer program to have their own facility down there, and we don't need to touch Woodridge High School. Woodridge High School field will remain for our football program. And on top of that, we are looking at a community center where there will be a training room where we could do winter training over the years. There'll be basketball courts in there. Our youth baseball teams will be able to go in there and hit all year long. Our high school kids will be able to go down there. We'll have cages in there. We're going to have mats in there for our wrestlers. This has been a long time coming, 20 years in the making, and when we will rival, this complex will rival any other large town's athletic complex.
Great. I mean, it's really, talk about property value and return on investment. I mean, I think you had a...
So to put it into perspective, the soccer field will be online for this year. High school soccer. Nobody should hold this to me, but you may not have the full bathrooms up and running. The lights may not be up and running, but the soccer fields will be ready for fall of 2020 for high school and rec soccer. And the entire complex, not the building will be off probably 2 years, but spring of 21. So not this spring, but a year from this spring, the baseball and softball diamonds will be online. And then we're hoping spring of 22 to bring on the building.
That's awesome. Jimmy, you got something to add to that? And then I want to get to some more stuff. So you go ahead.
Yeah,
Jimmy, maybe you could hang out in there, Jimmy. You could hang out in there, Jimmy.
I would love to. The one thing is, anybody that lives in Lower Bergen County, I grew up in Lodi. I still live in Lodi. Woodridge's facilities behind the high school, which was a dirt and grass field, which was beat up. And then still to this day trying to play soccer and JV baseball behind in Teterboro behind the airport. If it rains for 5 minutes, those fields are underwater for days. So obviously with the new facilities, it's going to really be a boom to not only the high school sports, but the recreation sports in town.
Yeah, we weren't doing any justice to our. We were sending our JV programs and for soccer and baseball and softball down to the Teterboro Airport at the Redneck Fields. You get one rainstorm, you're out for 3 or 4 days. Our youth soccer used to play down there. They would lose 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, I know in some seasons our youth soccer, half the season would be canceled. I know JV baseball for a couple of years there. Earlier this decade, maximum they could play is 3-4 home games there. So this will enhance. Now we'll have both the facilities behind the high school and then the Westmont Station facilities.
That's going to be great. I mean, it's going to be a great place selfishly to take pictures and everything else. Cover games. I hope you got some.
Absolutely.
You got some sausage and peppers in a little,
We're going to have a concession stand, of course. We're going to have great, listen, we're South Bergen.
Yes, maybe
South Bergen. We know how to get it done. There's a lot of good Italians in South Bergen. We know how to eat.
Little sausage and peppers, Jimmy. We're going to be all set.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that stuff is Woodridge-centric. You, in addition to being the mayor of Woodridge, a New Jersey State Senator, one of the titles that you hold that I am most interested in is that of NJSIAA Executive Committee member. And we have a football show that was, I think, Jimmy, 16 or 17 episodes strong this past year, and one of the, at least an hour, many times over an hour, so, many hours of conversation about high school football. And one of the themes that we kept returning to over and over again, at least I bring it up because I am beating the drum in the opposite direction, but many in the NJSIA and in the coaching ranks and other places would love to see New Jersey high school football play down to one state champion per group, meaning Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, Group 4, Group 5, and then the separate non-publics. I am dead set against it, but I have my own reasons for that. What I want to know is that something that the NJSIA is really focused on getting done? I know there was a rule change in the Constitution this year that allowed it to be voted upon. And your feelings about such an adventure?
So I believe it's inevitable. I believe it's headed in that right direction. I think there's enough ground support from coaches, from the high school football community, and from some of the leadership in the NJSIA. I'm not sure if South Jersey feels the same way, but I will tell you Central and North Jersey, from the intelligence that I've gathered and listening in some of these meetings, it's headed in that direction. So I think it's headed. There are still some things that need to be, of course, worked out. Two big issues that come to mind to me is 14 games is too long of a season, right? 14 games. If you play 9 regular season games, and then that would force you to do, if you kept 16 teams in the playoffs per group, you're going to end up playing 14 football games. That's a lot of football.
We saw last year, like Park Ridge won the quote-unquote bowl game or the North Jersey championship. And, Jimmy, how many guys did we count on the sideline? I mean, there were less than 30.
They had 28 kids, so that's the one concern we've talked about with, and you mentioned before about participation numbers going down in football. How it would be feasible for Group 1 or even Group 2 teams to be able to go through 14 weeks of football without having a mash unit on the sideline, because we see it with the parochials that injuries seem to be up, and it would just be a difficult thing to do.
Sure. So, and I'm assuming Park Ridge, I don't know if they had an independent game or not, but they played 13 football games this year. That's a lot of football. They played a lot of football. So I'm just I'll have probably one vote in this and a small voice. I will say this. If they are going to head in this direction, I think they need to take the following things into consideration. I think if they go and limit the amount of teams from 16 to 8 per group, so let's just take group, any group, group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4 in North Jersey. 16 teams make it. This year they divided it 8 into each section, section 1 and section 2 in the north. But I think if you go to 8, there's going to be a lot of pushback, especially as you're trying to encourage kids and people to come out to play football. So I think there will be a big pushback. So if you stay with the premise that there still be 16 teams that qualify, you can't have 9 games. You got to limit the regular season to maximum 8, and I'm going to even say a minimum of 7. Let coaches decide how talented their teams are. Do they play, 7 regular season games and skip an independent game? But that's what it's going to come down to. So this way, it's 7 or 8 regular season games, and then you pick up your 5 postseason games. Still a lot of football. I would be opposed to starting any earlier. Right now, they're starting. They can't start any earlier, quite frankly. They're starting the day after high school ends. I don't think it's fair to the kids who play multiple sports, especially kids who play baseball throughout the summer. So those are some of the hurdles. Those are some of the hurdles that they're facing.
I mean, that sounds like a lot of hurdles, and it also I don't want to come off as like anti-football and all these other things. I just don't see what's the difference if you end as a sectional champion or an overall group state champion. And if you look at the basketball model, I've seen this over the 25 years I've been covering the basketball tournament. You go through the state sectionals, you get to that state sectional final game. You have to show up at the gym at 5:00 to get a seat. You've seen it, Coach, in Woodridge. Those games, you can't get a seat in the gym, and then you move on to that Group 1 state semifinal game, wherever it may be, East Orange Campus High School. There's nobody there, And then you even move further than that when the tournament or the state finals go down to Toms River. There's less people there, and then by the time, when is enough high school sports enough? Especially with football, which starts in June. Coaches' stipends don't go up the more they play. I don't know why coaches keep agreeing to extend the season without, renegotiating. That's a whole other thing, but that's not my problem. But, I feel like football is a monster that's eating up a whole bunch of things. And I'm interested on your take on it because I know you are the father of a talented high school athlete who does play multiple sports. And in Group 1, multiple sport athletes are the lifeblood of Group 1, Group 2, and even some Group 3 schools. So, for your boy.
We Group 1, Group 2 schools, Group 1, Group 2 schools don't survive with the multiple sport athletes. I mean, clearly they don't survive without the multiple sport athletes. They need the multiple sport athletes, so, and to survive. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, throughout the year now, kids are, in order to stay competitive at the football level, they're doing their weight training, they're in the gym 3-4 days a week, and in order to compete on the baseball field, you need to get your swings in. You need to, if you're a pitcher, you need to be throwing. So the whole lines become blurred. I see it with my son. I see it with some of his friends. And one day they're shooting hoops, lifting, and swinging a bat. So it all happens in one particular day. So there's no doubt about it. I mean, there needs to be some definitive timelines of when we could begin and start these seasons. But high school football, let's face it, is the moneymaker for high school athletics. It's the biggest moneymaker for the NJSIA.
But not for the Bergen County Coaches Association. So, and that's local
true.
money. But, okay. Anyway, sorry.
I
I'm not trying to kill you.
You're making valid points, but the points that you're making are very valid, and I think it's all points that are going to become obstacles and hurdles. They need to figure out. There still needs to be a start and stop point, a hard start and a hard stop point. I don't think they can't extend the season any further because it would not be fair to the basketball and the wrestling athletes. It would not be fair to them. It wouldn't be fair to the teammates. The kid who just plays hoops, or 2 or 3 players, his teammates are still getting banged up a little bit. So I think there's got to be a start and stop point. I also think you got to limit the regular season games. And I think if you start to talk, like I said earlier, going from 16 to 8, there's going to be pushback from many of the public schools on that, saying, are we going to limit to 8? We're trying to get more and more kids into the program. We're trying to show kids, hey, you can get a chance to play in a state high school game. It's really cool. You're in a state high school player. And that's great. Listen, it's awesome. Yep. That's what it's all about. You know what? You got to give a student athlete an incentive in June when it's 100 degrees out. They just got out of high school. That we're here, so we're playing in first week in November. We're playing in that first state playoff game. So a lot of hurdles here. There's some really, really great high school football minds, high school football coaches and athletic directors who are sort of taking the lead in this, and I'm hopeful that they'll consider all these things as they put the final
Jimmy,
proposal
you have the last
together.
word, last question I can't believe we have somehow finagled a state senator to stay on the phone with us for over half an hour. So this is great. Jimmy, go ahead.
Tomorrow,
yes,
we got a Packer game coming on, so we got to return to the Packer game. And
go ahead.
But what's the last question?
Just 2 quick things. People mention New Jersey and the NJSIAA, but I don't think people truly realize how different South Jersey is in their thinking in sports and basically everything. I mean, they still support Thanksgiving Day games, where in North Jersey, I mean, they're a thing of the past, which would prevent an overall state championship. Obviously, something has to be done. I don't know if the South Jersey teams want to give up the Thanksgiving Day game. And number 2, just where do you feel everything's going with the Group 1 and 2 schools as far as co-op programs? Obviously, Powell Park, Leonia now wants to go with a tri-op and bring another school in. What are your feelings on that as far as helping boost their numbers and create stronger programs?
I support let me put those things in silos. So the first one is, let's just stay with the Powell Park piece. I support co-ops as long as it's about increasing participation and it's not to create a competitive advantage. So that would be number 1. So if we get to a chance where there's 2 small schools in South Bergen for Woodridge someday, who knows? I can't. I don't have a glass ball here, but Woodridge one day needs to combine with Beckton or Hasbrook Heights to keep football going, but their basketball and baseball programs are strong, and their girls' sports are really, really strong. We seem to have great girls' participation in volleyball and softball and everything. So I would support that. So I do support it as long as it's about participation and not about competitive advantage. And I think we need to do more of that. And I think you're going to continue to see more and more of that. As much as we're going to Canton and we're trying to promote football, we're going to continue to do that. I think at one point in time, years from now, you pick up your 5 more co-ops, especially in wrestling and in more of in football and some of the contact sports. With regard to North versus South, there's no doubt about it, Jimmy. Much different thinking, but that goes for everything. It goes to in the politics it goes to the politics in just on how transportation dollars are set up. North Jersey feels we're so densely popular, we deserve more money than South Jersey. South Jersey always feels they're getting the short end of the short end of the stick. North Jersey, we're more union dominated. South Jersey, there are a lot less. We're a small state, but believe it or not, we're a very diverse state. Yep. So the thinking is much different when you get down into some of the counties and the southern counties. And I'm not talking Southern counties, Ocean County. I'm talking, Southern counties, Burlington and Gloucester and some of those areas. They have some great high school athletic programs there, but they also have some traditions that they do not want to give up as well. And they feel really strong about it. Also from purely, from a financial standpoint, there is a school of thought that the social economics of people in the northern part of the state are a little bit higher than some of the parts of the South where kids are getting training and a lot of other opportunities where other parts of the state are not. So there's still I still believe there's still a pretty big divide on a lot of issues, but definitely with high school sports. And I think if you ask any South Jersey folks, do they really want to play down to a final in football? No. Baseball, yes. Basketball, yes. Football, probably not. So, but it's no different than anything else in society in New Jersey. I wouldn't want to live any place other than New Jersey, but clearly we're very, very, for a small state, we're a diverse state, and that even comes down to high school sports.
Yeah, I mean, urban, suburban, rural, agricultural, we got it all in New Jersey. So it's crazy that way. I just wanted to go a couple of things that I learned here. No chance that the Pal Park Leonia Richfield tri-op will work because it will be a super team. So we would take on everybody and kill everybody, so it's probably not going to happen. And I also learned here tonight that there's such a thing called Gloucester County in New Jersey. So listen, this is what happened when you bring smart people on, engineers who are also mayors and state senators and everything else. And Mr. Sarlo, we could not be more thankful that you took about 45 minutes out of your playoff football Sunday to join us here on this special edition of the football show. And I would love to keep the lines of communication open with you as we move forward here, because these issues aren't going away, and maybe every once in a while we check in and see where we stand.
Absolutely. I am passionate about high school sports. I was passionate when I played it, and I'm passionate about the future. And let's face it, these kids, these student athletes are our future. They are our future coaches, teachers, athletic directors, mayors, CEOs. The student athletes that today are our future, and the kids who are playing Little League today are our future. So I'm passionate about giving these kids the opportunity. So thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. And there will be a day soon this spring where Jimmy is coaching the Woodridge baseball team. Your son will be playing on the Woodridge baseball team, and I will be standing next to you in your ear asking you how we can get Sanzari Construction to be a sponsor of NorthJerseySports.com. So until that time, sir.
I like that. I like the way you ended that. Very
good.
Good.
Sir, we will see you on the football show.
Great job.
Follow the leader.